hate Rudy Gobert.
Why don't you like Rudy?
Because that motherfucker
Money.
making 250. He don't deserve it, dog.
Quote NBA player.
Rudy Gobert.
Oh my God, I knew he was gonna say Rudy Gobert.
Over the past decade, whenever you tuned in to Inside the NBA, the best studio show in the entire world, you can guarantee 3 things were gonna happen. 1. Chuck would make fun of Shaq and he'd respond with, "Rings, Ernie." 2. Kenny would instigate every single argument. And 3. Every time the name Rudy Gobert comes up in a conversation, Shaq gets triggered and immediately starts bashing him. Now, you could say the longest ongoing feud before this was Shaq and Dwight Howard, but the reason for that was pretty straightforward. He took his Superman nickname and ran with it. But apparently they're good now since Shaq agreed to walk him out during his Hall of Fame ceremony. We all know Shaq frequently has a hate boner for NBA centers. Heck, he even made up a story about David Robinson back in his day, and he even throws strays at random centers like Roy Hibbert. But nothing, and I mean nothing, comes close to the amount of vitriol that Shaq has thrown at Rudy Gobert to the point where he thinks he's the worst player in NBA history. Obviously, that's not true. So what is it about this guy specifically that Shaq seriously dislikes? And although Gobert initially did not care, over the years he did start to care. And he fired back. In this video, let's take a detailed dive into the NBA's longest ongoing feud. What caused it, and will it ever end?
Look at this, going up high. Gobert erases the shot inside.
This season was widely considered to be Rudy Gobert's breakout year. At the time, he was basically known as a lumbering center in Utah, but as the Jazz were winning more and more games and making the playoffs, Gobert's presence as a defensive savant caught the attention of the public eye. He was named first team all-defense and secured his first defensive player of the year, his first of many. Gobert single-handedly turned the Jazz into a top 3 defensive team in the league, anchoring the paint, contesting shots in a way that few players in history could do. In fact, the team's entire game plan was to funnel the offense into Gobert, cause they know he can stop them. As a result, being the new kid on the block, more and more media outlets took notice and praised him, even though he didn't have the flashiest offensive game nor the most versatile scoring arsenal. He was arguably the most impactful defender in the NBA. February 1st, 2019, Rudy Gobert gets snubbed from the All-Star game. Now, you might think that this was no big deal, but it was. Despite his stock quickly rising, one thing that has eluded him is the All-Star game. Gobert shoulders the burden of high expectations for himself, so when he found out he wasn't selected to be an All-Star, he cried in front of reporters.
It was tough, but you know, it is what it is. Sorry.
This clip circled around social media and eventually got to Shaq, who told him, "Man up, there's no crying in basketball. Maybe he was sad he didn't make it, but it happens like that sometimes. It's not something you cry about." This was the first time Shaq acknowledged him, and he was actually quite empathetic. He gave him some advice and told him, you know, even great players sometimes get snubbed, so you just gotta forget about it, move on, and try again next year. In fact, he actually kinda liked Gobert. He liked the fact that he was a young center making waves across the league, because at that time, very few centers were being talked about at all. This was before Jokic or Embiid became MVP caliber players. Although he did laugh and kinda mock him for crying, it was all in good fun and he had no ill intentions. It might have been the first time Shaq realized who Gobert even was, cause we all know he doesn't actually watch NBA games. Unfortunately, what seemed like a fun, one-time occurrence, it actually ignited the beginning of a new feud. Gobert had several things working against him. First, it was the fact that most of the NBA world did not like him. Maybe it's his condescending way of speaking, maybe it's his lack of any kind of offensive game, maybe it's because he's French. Second, remember when the NBA season got shut down due to COVID? Well, guess who was the first NBA player diagnosed with it? Yup, Rudy Gobert, who, ironically, on the same night, jokingly touched every single microphone in his post-game interview. He made a complete mockery of a serious, widespreading virus, a virus that was threatening to shut down so many industries, including the sports industry. So this did not sit well with anybody. The hate toward Gobert grew tenfold from this moment alone, and fans blamed him for the NBA season being postponed, although it was probably going to happen eventually anyway. Regardless, due to the already disdained image of Gobert, it was easy for everybody else to pile on him.
It's not going to set well with Jazz fans.
He could have. I don't know if he's going to be any less liked when it comes down to it.
Fast forward to December 20th, 2020. Gobert signed a colossal 5-year, $205 million contract extension. At the moment he signed it, it was the third largest contract in NBA history, and the largest contract of any center ever. Of course, this caught the entire basketball world by storm and sparked discussions among the players, many of whom believed Gobert to be incredibly overrated and did not deserve that contract. Guys like Draymond Green were blasting him on his podcast, and the players even voted him as the NBA's most overrated player. The hostility towards Gobert reached an all-time high. It wasn't even because of the whole COVID thing. It started to become personal. Nobody, not even his contemporaries, believed he was deserving of that contract. Then in comes Shaquille O'Neal to add more fuel to the fire. Upon hearing that Gobert just became the highest paid center ever, oh, you know he felt some kind of way. Quote, "You're making $200 million and you're averaging 11 points. If Gobert can get that, I'm gonna go back and average 3 points and still get paid." On Inside the NBA, he even turned to Chuck and asked him a rhetorical question.
Chuck, if 11 points get you 200 million, 38 points you get you 600 million, right?
Obviously, Shaq could not hide how upset he was, and it's rooted in jealousy. To play devil's advocate, there were so many things wrong with everyone who blasted Gobert. For one, he averaged 15 points a game when he signed the deal, not 11. He's also not paid for his scoring, but his ability to alter the game simply by his existence on defense. According to PBP stats, on-off metrics for the 2019-20 season, the Jazz were +6 when he was on the court, but -5 when he wasn't. Basically, a +11 net rating is absolutely insane, and it's up there with the likes of MVP Jokic or Shea. The thing is, Gobert's playstyle doesn't meet the criteria of what others consider as a dominant game, because it's hard to see his impact if you don't understand how he plays. Of course, there are legitimate criticisms, like how he's not as versatile defensively compared to Kawhi Leonard or Draymond Green, cause you can bring him out to the perimeter and he gets cooked. Even so, there's no reasoning or logic for him to attract this amount of hatred for simply being bad at certain parts of the game. I mean, shouldn't players want their peers to get paid? Isn't that what the Players Union and the CBA is for? To make sure players get paid and not get screwed over by the owners? They're on the same team here. It's one thing for NBA fans to make fun of his contract. It's another for his peers and other players to make fun of him. I mean, come on, you should all be supporting each other. 2021, clapping back. Now, knowing Shaq and how long he holds onto grudges, his interactions with Gobert got worse and worse over time. For most of 2021, Shaq subtly threw shots at Gobert on social media or during interviews, constantly belittling his accomplishments.
Hey, I stand by what I say. Well, which one is Rudy? I think Rudy's the guy, the bear.
I do, yeah.
When he won Defensive Player of the Year for the third time, Shaq said he didn't deserve it because he was soft and he did not play physically. When he responded to Shaq on Twitter by posting workout clips and saying he'd let his work speak for himself, Shaq then started posting his own highlights on Instagram claiming Gobert doesn't stand a chance at guarding him. This so-called one-sided feud turned into both parties throwing shots at each other from across the bridge, even though Gobert was basically trying to defend himself. Even the folks at Inside the NBA were getting annoyed with Shaq bringing up his name. He was living rent-free in Shaq's head while Rudy didn't give a crap at all. 2022, Shaq relaunches his podcast. Around this time, Shaq decided to redesign and relaunch his podcast. The funny part is, I feel like he did that solely so he can have his own platform, to continue disparaging Rudy Gobert, cause that was the first thing he did.
I think Rudy Gobert can hold you to like 12 points.
12 points, yeah, in the first 3 minutes. Let me.
Gobert, of course, started clapping back more. I don't even think he believes what he said here. This back and forth has gone on for so long that Gobert started trolling Shaq just to get under his skin, which was, quite easy to do. After several years, you'd expect this feud to die out by now, but it got even stronger, mostly because of Shaq, even laughably claiming he'd have 45 and 16 against Gobert by halftime. The shots continued to be fired, but for Gobert, this was getting tiring, and he started realizing that Shaq had a seriously unhealthy obsession with him. This feud has been in the public eye for so long that even reporters started wondering, why is Shaq so obsessed with Gobert of all people? It can't just be the money thing, right? Well, Shaq responded with the most Shaq answer ever. Because he's ruining the legacy of big men everywhere. I mean, what does that even mean? How does Rudy Gobert ruin the legacy of other centers? Did Kareem or Wilt Chamberlain's legacy get ruined because Gobert exists? Shaq also added on, as the president of the Big Man Alliance, you making big money. Play like a f***ing big man. That's it. Throw some elbows, knock some people out. Don't be letting little white dudes from Denver dunk on you and talk to you. Yeah, I'm not sure why throwing elbows or knocking people out is a good way to represent centers. In fact, it's a good thing that players aren't emulating Karl Malone, who became the poster boy for flying elbows. Shaq just doesn't like the fact that Rudy isn't a rugged, bruising traditional big man like he is. He looks at him and sees a lanky Frenchman who plays like the complete antithesis of how he believes a real center should play. However, real talk though, that's a misconception of Gobert's game. Although he's not a bruising center like Shaq, he still plays very physical. He's willing to put his body on the line to block shots even if it means the risk of getting dunked on. Whereas if it was Shaq, he'd probably just get out of the way. I think it's great that Gobert can contribute to winning by focusing on his own strengths, not emulating somebody else. That's why whichever team he's on, they're always a top defense, because he's a real team player. In September of 2024, Gobert fought back and called him out on his insecurities. Quote, "It is sad to see someone that has accomplished as much as you did, Shaq, both in sport and business, still be triggered by another man's finances and accomplishments. I get the entertainment part, but unlike other folks, you don't need that stuff to stay relevant." Over the years, there have been a trend of retired superstars condemning the accomplishments of the younger generation. It's not just Shaq. Whether it's jealousy of how much money current NBA players are making, or simply regurgitating the rhetoric of, "My era was tougher than yours." In this specific ongoing feud, nobody actually thinks Gobert is a better player than Shaq. But Shaq has a history of being a bully, he has a history of being petty, and every little thing that challenges his status, he takes offense to it. Like, Gobert's contract has been surpassed by so many other players, but Shaq didn't complain as much about them. This feud, it's kinda like the new age version of Shaq vs. Dwight Howard. For some reason, anytime a center gets just a little bit of fame, it makes him feel insecure. Like, why? We all know how much you accomplished. But the difference here is Gobert is so widely hated that other players are not saying much to defend him. In a way, it sucks. He's a great player. You don't become a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year by being bad. Yet because of Shaq's constant negativity, it's become a trend to hate him. Even other players jumped aboard the bandwagon. How long will this feud last? We don't know. Shaq has been called out so many times for his unfiltered comments on Gobert. Yet he still has not stopped, and it's gotten worse over the years. Perhaps it'll last until Gobert's retirement, even though I can imagine Shaq holding on to this grudge until the day he dies. Anyway, that's all folks. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section about this long ongoing feud between Shaq and Rudy Gobert. What are your thoughts on it? Do you think Shaq's comments are justified, and do you think Gobert deserves the criticism? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. And of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.